Hello and welcome to government class. In today's government class, we'll be looking at the features of Nigerian federalism. The features of Nigerian federalism. What are the major features or attributes of Nigerian federalism? The first is division of power. In Nigeria's federalism, the first is division of power. In Nigeria's federalism, the available constitutional power that exists in the country are shared between the federal or the central government and the federating units, which were called regions, and now they are called states, and the local government. So in Nigeria's federalism, we can see division of constitutional power that exists in the country, in that the power is shared between the federal or the central government, the federating unit, which was known as regions before, but now is known as states, and the local government. In that, we can see the fact that power is being shared between the federal and the central government, is shared between the federal and the federal government, or the central government and the federating unit, which were known as regions before, but now we call them states, and also the local government. So there's clear division of power there's clear division of the constitutional power between the federal government, the federating units, and the local government. One feature of Nigeria's federalism is the supremacy of the constitution. The constitution is supreme. No power of government can override the constitution. No president can override the powers as stated in the constitution. So what we see in Nigeria's federalism also is that the constitution is supreme. We can see the supremacy of the constitution. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is derivation of power. The constitution is regarded as the only source where all the three tiers of government, which is the federal, the state, and the local government, and other public institutions derive their power within the political systems of the country. So the constitution is the only source where the three tiers of government derive their powers from, and other public institutions. Every tier of government and every public institution, they derive their powers from the constitution, within the limits that the constitution says their power can go, or where the constitution limits their power, that is where their power can stop. So every arm or tier of government and every political institution in Nigeria's federalism, they derive their power from the constitution. And this is also another feature of Nigeria's federalism, derivation of power from the constitution. The constitution is the only legit source of power for all tiers of government and public institution. The constitution states the limits of their powers and the areas where they can exercise their powers. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is written constitution. The constitution adopted by Nigeria's federalism is mainly written, and it is rigid in nature and scope. That is, it's not flexible, it cannot be changed easily. Before you can change any item on the Constitution of Nigeria, you have to go through a long and tedious process. So Nigeria's constitution is both written and rigid in nature and scope. And this is also another feature of Nigeria's federalism. We have a written constitution which is rigid in nature and scope. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is a bicameral legislature. In Nigeria's federalism, there is bicameral legislature adopted at the central or the federal level. We have a bicameral legislature at the central or federal level, where we have the Senate and the House of Representatives. So we have the Senate and the House of Representatives, and these two before a bill can be passed to become a law, the bill has to pass through the Senate and the House of Representatives. So in Nigeria, at the central or federal level, we operate a bicameral legislature, and this is one of the features of Nigeria's federalism. Another feature of Nigerian federalism is at the state level, we have a unicameral legislature, only one chamber of legislature, which is the House of Assembly. So at the state level, we only have one chamber of legislature, which is the House of Assembly. And this is also another feature of the Nigerian federalism: bicameral legislature at the central level, unicameral legislature at the state level. The next thing we'll be looking at is the existence of the Supreme Court. Still under the features of Nigerian federalism, there is the existence of a Supreme Court. There is an establishment of the apex court called the Supreme Court within the judicial arm of government to interpret law and cases, and to also perform all sorts of judicial reviews. So under the Nigerian federalism, we have a Supreme Court. There is the establishment of the highest court, which is the Supreme Court, and within the judicial arm of government. So the Supreme Court operates within the judicial arm of government, and the Supreme Court is there to interpret laws and cases and to performs judicial reviews, to perform all sorts of judicial reviews. So this is also one of the features of Nigeria's federalism, the fact that we have a Supreme Court that helps to interpret our laws and cases and to also perform judicial reviews. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is there is no power of secession. Secession is when a state or a region under a federal system of government wants to break away from the country and become an independent republic. And we saw that when we're looking at the structure of Nigeria's federalism between 1975 to date. If you want to look at that video, please look to our previous videos. We looked at the structure of Nigeria's federalism from 1975 to date, and we talked about when the Eastern region wanted to break away from Nigeria and become the independent nation of Biafra, but that attempt was unsuccessful. So secession is when a nation, a region or a state in a country wants to break away from the country. The power of secession is not granted to the component autonomous states in Nigeria's federation. There is no state can decide today that they want to suddenly leave. It will take a long, rigorous process before such can happen. So under the Nigerian's federalism, that's one of the features of Nigeria's federalism, there is no power of secession. No autonomous state is granted the power of secession, that to break free whenever they want. We are in this together. Unity in diversity. So no state can break free from the federation, from the Nigerian federalism. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is unequal regional division. In Nigeria's federalism, there exists unequal division of the country into different regions or states. And this happened right from the time when the country was divided into the northern region, the western region, and the southern region, and thereby making the northern region larger than the other parts of the country. So this unequal regional division was right from the time of Sir Baudelaire in 1939, when he divided the country into regions. So unequal regional division is also one of the features of Nigeria's federalism. In Nigeria's federalism, there is unequal division of country into different states. Some states are larger than other states. They are more populous than other states. So the state is generally not divided equally in terms of even natural resources and all. So there is unequal division of the states, of the country, into different regions or states. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is separation of power. In Nigeria's federalism, there is adequate and effective separation of constitutional power among the arms of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial arm of government. No power is not fused in one person. So one person cannot say, I implement law, I make law, I interpret law. No, there's clear division of power. There's clear separation of power, adequate and effective separation of power in the Constitution. So there's a place where the executive can have powers, there is a place where the legislative have power, there is a place where the judiciary will be allowed to interpret the law. So there's clear division of power. No, the three powers of the arms of government is not vested in one individual. There is in the Nigerian federalism, there is adequate and effective separation of constitutional powers among the arms of government, which are the executive, the legislative, and the judicial arm of government. Another feature of Nigeria's federalism is the duplication of organs and functions. Duplication of organs and functions. One of the attributes of Nigeria's federalism is the duplication of the organs of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary arms of government, and the duplication of the functions and legislative in departments. What we see in this duplication is that members of the executive are equally members of the legislative. So they are performing two functions. So there's duplication of organs and functions of the government. So in Nigeria's federalism, we can see duplication of the organs of government. There's duplication of the organs of government, the functions and the responsibility of government. And this is a big disadvantage to the nation. And in the course of our classes, when we look at some of the disadvantages of some of the reasons why Nigeria is not, the federalism in Nigeria is, or some of the disadvantages of Nigeria's federalism, we'll look at that attribute. Please, the video will be out soon. Keep checking. And with this, we've come to the end of the class. In the course of this class, we discussed the features of Nigeria's federalism. We said Nigeria's federalism, there's separation of power. All the powers there's clear division of power in the Constitution. There are duplications of the arms and organs of government, and a lot more. And I'll see you at the next class.